And what happened is I was so religious that I won the national Bible contest for Jewish kids. Like this is why I have a lot of issues. So I won the national Bible contest for Jewish kids. It was for very religious kids, and I represented America. And I got an all expense paid trip to Israel to go meet the prime minister. Extreme. This is all for like Orthodox Jews. They like broadcast the international competition on Independence Day. It's like their American Idol. And I went there, and it was like hell what I went through because like they were saying stuff to me. These are like supposed to be, this is like, I was like, I'm Jewish. Like, these were Orthodox Jewish kids. Like, everyone was like, these kids are gonna be so great. Like, you're gonna be like, you're a Bible scholar, Zach, whatever. I was called chink. I was told I wasn't Jewish. When we went to like Orthodox quarters of Israel, like these kids pointed at me and were just laughing and calling me the racial slur in Hebrew for Chinese person. And like, this was supposed to be like my homeland. Like, this was championed to me as like the land. And like I had like that was like really traumatic. Like when I'm saying I was called a chink, it was like in very like mean context and just like abuse and racist abuse. And Israel is like from my experience is like a pretty racist place, especially towards Asian people, which they view as like foreign or whatever. And then so that happened, and then I remembered like that had never happened to me. Like I never even viewed myself as like Asian in a physical way. Because another thing my dad always did growing up was told me that I just like looked white, and then I was he's like, you don't look very Asian and stuff like that, and he actually still says that to me. But that happened, and then like I remember like the first time I came back to Temple in Cleveland, it was again my home temple. Like some old woman was like, "Are you from China?" And then I'm not even Chinese, like I'm Taiwanese, like. So when that happened, like all that happened within like a week or two, and then it was like over. Like that was when my issues started developing, and then that's why I had like after that I just like a lot of the things that I started going through. I started getting into a ton of trouble at school. Started hanging out with like kids who did drugs, skated, whatever. Had a lot to do with my identity issues and feeling like I didn't belong anywhere. I remember just like being in my hotel room and these British kids were, like banging on my door, like calling, this is just saying chink chink, like whatever, like come out, like just like horror, like malicious, like very maliciously, like whatever. That was like the first time I was called that, and that I didn't even see myself as that. Like I didn't know that someone could ever call me that. Like, but when as soon as someone said that, I totally understood like racism. I mean, I don't want to say I totally understood all racism, but I totally understood like a certain thing about racism that like maybe someone who had I guess never had that experience maybe wouldn't be able to understand. Like it was something where it was like there's something that this power that this person has over me that they can just like attack me with that word. I have no word to call them back. Like that was kind of a moment where it was just like the point of no return. Because then it's just like this being mixed is like a negative thing now.
From kindergarten to like fourth grade, it seemed like everyone would just assume that I was just black and that was it. And I didn't really think to like correct them, or it didn't feel like as much of a big deal if they were like, oh, like Jackie's black, whatever. It's like, okay, like, yeah, I am. It's not all that I am, but okay. And then really starting in like fifth grade and middle school, I started to get a bit irritated by that. And so I would respond more like if people were just trying to put me in like one sort of like racial box. Again, like I remember very distinctly like black girls that I'd been friends with being like, oh, so I guess you're not really black then. That whole like, oh, you're not really this or that now that you're like claiming you're like Filipino side. And that's like total BS. Like, we know that. But in the moment it was, like you mentioned, that those feelings of not wholly belonging.
Yeah, I feel like until I was 6, like, I was convinced I was just white. Like, I just didn't even see myself as Asian because I didn't speak Japanese. I didn't have other Japanese friends, like, and kind of when I started going to sleepaway camp, which was way more aware, it was like an environment that was way more aware of race, like, because it was more diverse. Like, my schools were predominantly white, and I could kind of pass when I was that young, but once I got to camp, I definitely like felt my race way more. When I was about 11 or 12, they put us in called the Olympics, and campers would be shuffled randomly to different teams, and each team was a country. That year, I was assigned to China, and I was a little bit weary of it in the beginning. just because I did want to, I think when I was younger, I tried to disassociate myself from Asian culture altogether. And a boy came up to me and said, "Wow, you're on China. That's so racist of the camp." And I freaked out, and I don't know, in a way it called attention to that, and I asked the director to switch me to a different team, and I switched to Scotland. And I'm really embarrassed about that story. So I think that was when I was younger. That was like an earlier stage when I tried to really, all my friends were white and I kind of just wanted to fit in, and I think that I really tried to disassociate myself from Asian culture. And I think as I've gotten older and I've come into more like heterogeneous environments like Colombia, I've embraced it more. I started taking Japanese here, and I've started asking my mom more questions about it, and I kind of question what my motives are from that, because I do really feel disconnected from Japanese culture. I really don't think it's like had a huge influence in my life, and I question why I'm so interested in like this culture that I do feel so disconnected from, when I really just feel like American. But I think it's a combination of wanting to speak to my family and like pressure from society to say, you're not like American, you have this other thing that you should also be very involved with.
So probably until like the 4th grade, every kid just called me Chinese. They would just like start off like that. My first instinct would be like, no, not Chinese, Korean, but then I normally wouldn't even get to the rest of it. So for a long time, I just thought of myself as Korean, just because I always had to like just defend that much, and usually didn't get much farther. But like if I told them like all the different parts, it was more like the other kids commenting on the stereotypes of the different parts, instead of being like, oh, you're mixed. Like there was never any acknowledgement of like, you have multiple things.
I actually didn't realize I was white for a long time. I recognized that I was not fully Japanese, because in Japan we have a different alphabet for words that come from foreign languages. So my last name, Gulino, is written Gurino in like a whole different alphabet. So when I was sitting with the other kids in my Japanese school, like I would look at their names and they were all in kanji, and I'd have a first name that was in katakana. So I knew that I wasn't fully Japanese, but I didn't really realize that I was like white specifically. I just thought I thought there was just like Japanese and non-Japanese. Because I think it's part of my dual citizenship, is that I very much think about my Asianness, my Americanness as being like two separate things. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like, on my mom's side, I am Japanese from Japan. This is a side of me that speaks Japanese, was born in Tokyo, is a Japanese citizen. Like, looks like this. And then on my dad's side, I'm like, this is the side that has the last name Gulino. This is the side that speaks English. This is the side that is a U.S. citizen. This is the side that likes comic books. So I very much thought about them as like two separate things. And so I'm trying to reconcile that.